All right, hello everyone, and welcome to the show. This, of course, is Theorycrafting Thursday. This is everybody's favorite weekly romantic advice podcast, and we're just going to get right into it, shall we, Proud?
Yeah, I love that when we do this one.
Of course. All right, so this week we have a pretty much weekly writer. We don't like to use people's full names here, so we'll just refer to him by his first initial. Our writer is G. And his email says, "Hi, big fan of the show. Thank you. I recently went out on a date with a girl for the first time in months, and it was going really well until she learned I had recently spent upwards of $1,500 on an online compendium for a game called Dota 2 to get cosmetic items. I informed her that it wasn't a big deal after she was confused, and then I told her that credit card debt is a myth perpetrated by the liberal media, but she was not convinced. What should I have done? Thanks, G." So this is quite the predicament, isn't it, Proud?
Yeah, I really feel for Grouty here.
Yeah, I mean normally we don't. Okay, but yes, I mean it has come out now. I don't blame him. You know, I like my cosmetic items much the most, but I mean at this point, if you're this kind of person, like honestly, just stop trying and I don't know, figure it out. You're an adult.
Yeah, I think I would say if they're not down with the hats, I would just accept that you're not good enough and maybe just live in a cave.
Right. So at that point, I mean, I feel like there's
That's
no more
not
romantic advice we could possibly give.
It's not a euphemism, like a real cave.
Yeah. We can advise some caves. I imagine you can catch some nice Pokemon in a cave. All right. So that being said, I mean that I feel like that answer pretty much accomplishes all of the romantic advice we could possibly give this week, especially being that this grouty individual is the only person that ever asked us questions, and I'm literally inundated with emails from this person. So let's just move on to being an actual Dota 2 podcast, shall we? Kind, Proud.
Which one is the kind, Proud?
Just you in general.
Okay.
Speaking of you in general, how's your previous week in Dota? You specifically. We'll talk about team stuff afterwards.
Okay, let's talk about me. Let's put it on Proud. Okay, all right. So lately, I guess it's been going fine. I've been getting back into Lone Druid. Man, I played a fucking double basher game with Skrunk. What were we against? We were against Timbersaw and Slark. And I was like, yeah, I got one basher right now. Let's get a second. So I had like Radiance, Hyperstone, and then just two bashers. And I just fucking I forgot how much fun going double basher is. You go one basher on the bear, one basher on the hero. In between like basher, and Entangle. Oh no, this was a game. It was against like a Lifestealer or something too.
Oh, that makes sense.
And I would just someone shows up and both my units hit him and they just don't move. I am a walking fucking everlasting fiend's grip.
Would you say that you are a bear trap?
No. I would say that I'm a walking everlasting fiend's grip with refresher on at all times. And it's perfect and I love it.
Yeah, it sounds pretty legit. That's for sure. I mean, especially when you consider both of the bashes are working independently of one another. So it's not even just because you can get really high attack speed on a hero with a bash, but there's internal cooldown. Whereas, on LD, you have combined so much attack speed between the two heroes. But the internal cooldown, I'm sure, balances out much more efficiently than it would obviously on one hero. Yeah, that's really cool. Anything else?
You have Rabid for 58 attack speed on both heroes, and then you have AC given the attack speed aura. Both units. I mean, Lone Druid has really good stat gain. It's almost 3 agi gain, and it's real solid. Yeah, it's great. And I've been playing a little bit of Luna, playing some Jug. Jug games have been going well as always. I'm comfy with Sven again. Been playing a little bit of Sven, so I got comfy on that nerd. And I've been playing today. I was playing a lot of Tiny and Morphling because I just want to practice those heroes and losing a lot because it's international queue and I didn't have any support in my lane. But it's good practice. Hey, if my lane is shit, what's that gonna feel like? It's gonna feel awful, but it's good to know how to deal with that kind of thing.
Yeah. Have you So I've played a few games with you while you played Luna, and I used to be kind of lackluster on the hero. I never thought it was bad, but I was very kind of But recently I've seen we've had some really good games with you on Luna, and like it's made the hero seem like incredibly strong and kind of really changed my view of the hero. I don't know if that was just one Luna game. I feel like we played multiple Luna
it's
games,
a lot of them. There was like one bad Luna game we had recently where I was just like feeling off, and it was just like a really, really weird game. It was like a 3-stack game, and everyone was awful.
Yeah, but anyway,
yeah,
I like that kind of thing where I mean everybody kind of knows, and I have a stigma within like even within our team of being like the doubter of certain heroes, many heroes. So it was very nice seeing Luna work well because we had like a number of games. I feel like we had like a couple week period where like we were trying Luna and every game it wouldn't work, and I was just like, wow, this hero sucks, it's garbage, and we've kind of hit our niche running Luna and like push strats. Like we ran Luna with like a Shadow Shaman draft.
Yeah,
and like
we did
just
that once.
ran towers down.
So
yeah, it was wild good.
The last Luna game we had was kind of close, but I was like 16, 2, and 20, and I had 900 GPM and a fucking rapier. So I mean, it can work out.
Yeah, for sure. So my week in Dota, I've been practicing Shadow Demon. That hero is incredibly strong. I feel like we played a Shadow Demon Luna game actually the other day. Shadow Demon definitely takes some finesse, though. Finesse is the wrong word, but definitely like you have to fail a number of games before you really get used to the hero. I used to play it a little bit, so I'm not completely unpracticed, but it's a hero that is very squishy and very like, you got to make the hard decisions and you got to hit your shadow poisons. And there's a lot of different skill builds I've seen people do. So just kind of adjusting to the hero in general as he becomes so much more prevalent in the meta has been fun. He's a really fun hero just in general. He just kind of was in a weird place for a while. And that is probably less because of balance and more just because of people don't pick him. So that's been a good time. I've been enjoying him. And again, just more Winter Wyvern. I played a couple CM games. That's about it. Really, nothing too revolutionary. It's mostly just that, like Shadow Demon. I didn't get that many games in last week, honestly. So again, more just practicing my supports because I feel like as our team has been progressing, and I guess this is a natural transition to talking about our week in Dota as a team.
Yeah, well done.
Yeah, well done us. I mean, I'm sure you heard about it. We won't go all on about it because we talked about it on other podcasts, or rather, Proud talked about it on the Monday show. But we won our Battle Cup last week, and I mean, it's not like winning a real tournament because most of the teams are just like 5 stacks of friends. So there's like not nearly as much coordination. That being said, it was still very fun and it was a good learning experience. We tried a lot of new things draft wise.
Well, we tried. One thing was the same the whole time, and that was you playing Wyvern. So
yes, so there's a special Friday episode coming out tomorrow. And on the show we Roland is like, so you play 5 position for your team, and then we both in unison were like, well, I don't really play 5 position. I play Winter Wyvern for my team. So yeah, our team, I think I'm the only person on our team that played the same hero every time, or even multiple times.
Yeah,
I played Winter Wyvern every game, which is fine. I mean, I love the hero; it's so fun. But we ran a few different drafts, and we had some nice matchups. So it was a good time overall, and I think we learned a lot. And honestly, like it sounds overly simplistic, but winning games as a team, and even like something like a Battle Cup, which is again not like it's not like you're winning a like top tier tournament or anything, but it's still like a good feeling to be like, all right, we spent our night, and like if we spent a night and we won 3 games and we gamed 75 MMR, we'd be happy. But winning a Battle Cup, it feels like there's more accomplishment than just seeing some arbitrary number rise a little. So it was fun. I enjoyed myself, and I definitely think because you were drafting for this because Flub was MIA. And
stellar drafts, I must say.
They were some really good drafts. I was well impressed. I mean, obviously, Proud used to be our captain, so it's not like it's some like foreign concept to us, but it was a good learning experience. I would definitely advise like anybody. I mean, I'm sure anybody that has a team is playing these Battle Cups anyway, so that's silly advice, but it was a good time. Again, like, I mean, I feel like the moral of our show is like, if you want to have fun playing Dota, there are lots of ways to do it, but the best way to have fun playing Dota is just to play in a consistent 5 stack or in like an actual team. We have a lot of teams within .p that have been recently growing and like really trying hard, which has been very pleasant, and it's a good feeling. So yeah. Other than that, I think our team's been practicing a bit. Unfortunately, it seems like we've been losing a lot with Flub and winning a lot otherwise. But It's been a fine time. I don't know. It's not too different from the regulars, honestly. I don't know if you have any thoughts about our team practices recently.
We've been trying a lot of doing a lot of trying new stuff and not a lot of refining the stuff we already have. So I sat down with Flub and we got to the infamous fucking Google Doc that I have, and we like wrote out all the team comps that we already have figured out. Three of which were the ones that we ran in the Battle Cup.
Mm-hmm.
And we threw out like a couple ideas so we don't have to look long and be like, hey, what do we want to run? I don't know. We got 20 seconds left to pick our first hero.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's definitely helping us. And again, like I'm the kind of person, and maybe this is why I'm not a captain, but I prefer that kind of consistency of like refining drafts that we know we can win with compared to trying new drafts that might be good but have a lot of like chance of just crashing and burning. And so yeah, I mean I'm happy about that. Like I really like, for instance, I played Winter Wyvern every single game of our Battle Cup, and that's just because like we are consistent with that hero, and like I have fun by winning, not necessarily by playing weird heroes or by like trying to do new things. Like I just like winning, and I like playing heroes that I like. And so I'm glad our team has been growing and learning like that. Or like we used to just run Disruptor Darkseer every game, not every game, but many games in a row, because that was just such a consistently strong and basic opening that was so hard to counter. So I like that kind of stuff, but definitely we're growing as a team at a good pace. So I've been very happy with that. Okay, so all that being said, one of the key things we were reflecting on after the Battle Cup, talking about our games, is dealing with split push. And this is a thing that obviously like we've dealt with before, because turns out people like to split push. But it was particularly important in our third game of the Battle Cup. And if you're interested in any of our match IDs, you can find either of us on Dota Buff, and they're just, if you find me on Dota Buff, just look at my 3 Winter Wyvern games in a row, or just me in client if you have me on your friends list. If you don't, just add me and I'll accept it. So if you're interested in match IDs, that's the way to do it. Just look me up on Dota Buff. But yeah, in the third game, the enemy team had a decent deal of split push, so we thought that would be a really good idea to talk about for a segment, because I feel like a lot of people have a lot of trouble with split push, myself included. I get very antsy, and I know like it's not productive for our team, and sometimes I say things that I really shouldn't, because I just like getting split pushed. Like it bothers me so much. I'm so like stressed out by split push. So
I know, baby, I know.
yeah, it's bad. I like, and the more I the more I reflect on our team comms, whenever like I'm amazed on the Tuesday show that Flub doesn't call out like us on the team when he's talking about our team. He's like, yeah, we have some communications issues sometimes. And like, if it was on our show, we'd be like, yeah, so and so has communication problems. But he's just like, yeah, but we work it out, we fix it. So God bless that guy for not doing the call out game. But maybe give it another couple weeks of podcasting, and he will. But
yeah, no, yeah, you have huge communication issues.
Yeah, it's something I work on, but like
really, I couldn't tell.
It's been a slow progression. It's a slow progression.
No, it's all good. Yeah, no. When I think about us and split pushing, I just remember there was like one game where you like kind of left to like stop an anti-mage split pushing and then died, and then like we couldn't push. And
it was a
like,
Weaver.
No, we gotta stop the push. We're like, no, fuck it, dude. It lost. Yeah. We're done.
It was a Weaver. Yeah, it's a bad habit. I like. It's really just a bad habit. That's all I can say is like, everybody, I feel like everybody has their like pet peeve in Dota, and like people have different things they're bad about. And mine is really like, I think I speak in the retrospective too much, because that's like how I learn about Dota. And that's how I like personally, like when I'm playing pubs or when I'm playing solo queue or whatever, like when I make a mistake, I like to acknowledge that mistake and think like, all right, I did the wrong thing here. And then in the future, that's what I think like referentially. And so sometimes I have a bad habit of doing that openly in our comms when like we are in team practice, and it's not productive, and I fully admit that, and like I really am working on it, but it's just so hard to do, and some people don't appreciate that, especially Flub. He was saying on the podcast, he's like, the thing I hate most is people who are like, this was a bad idea in the middle of a game. I'm like, boy, I didn't realize Flub felt this way about me.
Oh no, everyone hates you actually.
Yeah, that's fair. I'll live. Anyway, let's get back to our actual segment. So getting split pushed, when you're not like flaming your team and getting triggered like I am, what do you do to deal with split push, Proud?
Okay, well, All right, so there's, I guess, a couple of facets to this that I want to talk about. There's one, whether or not you should deal with it, and I guess, yeah, okay. The obvious thing, you deal with split push by TPing back and stopping them, right? With a hero that can dissuade them. You don't TP back your Crystal Maiden to stop an anti-mage with a Mantis style. Like, that's not going to really work out too well for you.
Yeah.
But then the other question is, should you go back? So, like, let's say your team doesn't win late. And you're against like a Naga Siren or an Anti-Mage or a Morphling or something like that. And you're trying to push a tier 2 and the Anti-Mage or whatever is already at a tier 2. So typically you'd be like, okay, he's at the tower and he's hitting it. Someone go back to deal with that. And then we'll fucking deal with and then, like we'll maybe kill their tier 2, maybe just back and accept the fact that we can't push right now. Like that sounds kind of okay on paper, but if you don't have the better late game composition, just kind of like draw it in your head what this game will look like if you don't go to stop him. So if you don't go to stop him, you're like 4 people, you're 5 people pushing the tower and he's 1 person pushing the tower. Maybe he'll kill it faster because Anti-Mage kills towers quickly, but most likely you'll end up trading towers. And it may feel kind of shitty, be like, oh, we're stronger right now, but we have to give up a building that sucks. I'm mad. And like, but shut the fuck up, okay? Because it doesn't matter. You're trying to end the game. Like what you're trying to do is make the Ancient fall. Unless the Anti-Mage killing your tier 2 is killing your Ancient, that doesn't really matter. Like you don't care about the state of your base when you're like when your team doesn't go as late as them. You want their Ancient to be dead, and you give no shits about the rest of your base at all, right? So if you're dealing with split pushing from a team where like if you continue to deal with them, you're going to miss like your only power spike you can capitalize on. Like don't really bother to deal with them unless you're trading like a tier 1 for a Rax. You can trade Raxes. If you're down like 1 Rax to 1 Rax and your team is like stronger once your game gets to that point, like that's good. You want that to happen, right?
Yeah, I guess like just thinking about that explanation, my primary like logical fallacy or my flaw in thinking is when like if we're committing 4 heroes to get a tier 2 and they're committing 1 to get a tier 2, I feel like we're losing out when you're absolutely right, and we're not really losing out in that situation. It's just we're capitalizing and playing differently. So it's definitely something to think about, especially if because I imagine a lot of people think like me, and I'm not just incredibly crazy.
Yeah, I would want to address that and say like it's not so much that they're only committing 1 hero. It looks like that if you just look at your mini map, but if you think about like the dynamics between the game, if the AM is somewhere else, the other heroes actually can't do anything. So they're basically committed. Like if their whole team is in their split, whatever guy is split pushing, and they can't fight you without that guy, they are committing 5 people to do that. They're committing the Anti-Mage to blink and the other 4 people to not do anything.
Oh, okay. That's fair. Or, I mean, but yeah, I suppose. But I mean, they could also have the Anti-Mage split pushing. They could just sack the tier 2 and be farming their jungle, and then we're trading, but they're farming jungle, and we have 4 heroes committed.
Yeah,
but, I mean that's all kind of,
that I kind of follow, but it depends whether or not you're like trying to, like if you're trying to Rax right off of that, like the farm doesn't really matter too much, et cetera, et cetera. Like if you're trying to end the game immediately, it's whatever.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's just like in my head that tends to be my thought process that really gums up the works, I suppose.
Very gummy works.
Yeah, the works are quite gummy. They need to be oiled, or however you'd gum out of things. Bleach? That's not true. I don't know.
No, that's not even close.
I'm not an adult. That was just the first chemical that came to mind.
Elbow grease.
All right. Let's see. What else about split pushing? So obviously, like it's more of a step process, right? So step 1 is deciding, are we going to deal with this or are we going to not deal with this? Step 2 is how are we going to deal with this, right? I think that's something important to go into, right? Who are you going to be committing to defend? And obviously, this is all contingent on team comps, but generally, the idea should be, all right, if they're split pushing with 1 guy, we want to TP 1 guy that is going to be able to deal with that split push, but also not contribute to our push in any huge fashion, I suppose. Yeah. If you are deciding to defend it, obviously. Where would you kind of fall on that one, Proud?
For pubs for the most part, I would either say it's your offlaner if it's not an offlaner that like has your entire team fight. Like you don't want to TP your Darkseer to deal with the split push. It has to be someone where like Like, okay, so if you're far enough ahead that you can TP one person to stop the split pusher, then if the split pusher goes back to their base, they as 5 still can't stop you as 4. So you normally want to like send someone an in between like the weakest hero you have on your team that also can like dissuade a push. So like Sand King is a pretty good one. Like if Anti-Mage isn't too far behind or ahead or whatever, like Sand King can port to a tower, caustic up the wave, and then like burrow strike whoever's split pushing, and then sandstorm, and then they're like, shit, I can't sit under this tower with sandstorm, and the fucking wave is dead. It's gonna have backdoor protection soon. This sucks.
Yeah.
So like that's a good one. So I'd either say like in a pub, like your jungler is almost always a good person to send if you have a jungler. Whatever tanky support you have, like you don't want to send the Shadow Shaman, you want to send the Earth Spirit or the Sand King or something like that. Or in the absence of that, if you have like an offlane slaughter or something, that's fine too. Unless you're like, you have a carry that's at 900 GPM, you don't really want to send your mid. Unless you have a mid that's, level 16 at 12 minutes, you don't really want to send your safe laner. So
Yeah.
you always want to have a good core of people, but you want to send someone who's can decently fighty, but not, all your eggs in one basket, stopping a split pusher.
Yeah, so I think like just thinking about that, like the general idea or an important delineation in thought is to decide like, all right, we're trying to stop him from pushing. We're not trying to kill him or her, right? So it's one thing to like, that's why you're not TPing back your 1 position or your 2 position with all this farm using the AM example, right? Because realistically, he's going to blink away while he sees the TP going. So that's why you're TPing back like a Sand King or like a Beastmaster or something that's going to be able to deal with him, but not necessarily kill him, because the goal is not to kill him. The goal is just to dissuade him from pushing. Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
And I would say, so that's when the split pusher is, like actually effectively split pushing you, and you feel very sad. But the best way to deal with split pushing is not getting to that point at all, which is one of the ways that we kind of managed to pull this game out against this anti-mage that did so well. And that's you want to kill the split pusher obviously right before they get to your tower. And normally split pushers are obviously very evasive heroes, like your anti-mage, Morphling, heroes like Weaver, sometimes a Clinks, stuff like that, Tinker. And so the best way to go about that is not attacking where they are, because as soon as you see a split pusher on the map, they are not going to be there for very long. And if you're on the bot side of the map, and then you see an anti-mage on like the top left corner, that anti-mage is going to kill 3 creep waves and get the fuck out before your TP finishes. So especially against like a Tinker, you see him port somewhere, you see them port somewhere, you're going to say, okay, where is this motherfucker going to be next time they want to put their travels up and march down another 3 waves? So you have to kind of put yourself in their fucking rat shoes and be like, okay, where's this motherfucker going to go in 30 seconds? And then you plan your team to go there. You see them teleporting and you fucking catch them.
Yep. So a lot of times also you can kind of, I feel like people always have, not always, but people generally have patterns for their split pushing. Like, if you're playing AM, let's say, if you're playing Radiant AM and you're pushing the Dire safe lane in, like most people are probably going to follow a similar pattern where like, all right, they're going to push up to like the gap in the trees, and then they're going to blink and they're going to kill this small camp, and then they're going to blink, kill the hard camp. Then they're going to run down and take their hard camp, offlane hard camp, and then take Ancients.
And then make their way back to bot,
And that's a very obviously it's a very one of the more efficient ways to farm, and naturally people are going to be efficient, unless I suppose you're in that person's really bad, but you can kind of predict that kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, I suppose if they're next leveling you and they're going to farm inefficiently to juke that, but
easy.
You can kind of assume those kind of things, right? If you see all right, the AM just killed a wave and he was moving down, all right, obviously he's going to take that small camp and then he's going to blink over to the large camp. You can kind of preemptively say, all right, this guy's done this 5 times this game, so let's smoke up and go near the hard camp, or let's do whatever, or even just let's walk over to the hard camp, and he's going to have already used his blink there, and you just kill him because you know where he's going to be, and he has to blink to get there. So these kind of things are very productive. Also, just this extends to just ganking people in the jungle in general, not even non-split pushers. Everybody has pretty obvious farming patterns. All right, hey, this AM is at the medium camp, he's going to jump to the large camp. Like that kind of stuff is very natural. So it's easy to kind of make predictive ganks in that sense. Anything else regarding split pushing? I mean, there are also like, this could be, if you kind of reverse engineer this conversation, if you are somebody that likes to split push, think about it this way and don't do the things we're saying, right? Avoid going in obvious patterns. Keep a TP with you. That's an example I see all the time that gets people screwed. Is they split push and they're playing AM or whatever, and they're like, oh yeah, I got away because they jump into the trees, but they don't have a TP scroll, and then they're stuck in the trees for like a minute, and like that kind of stuff.
A Linux stun comes and clears the trees, and they're like, shit.
Yeah.
Shit.
So carry a TP if you are split pushing. If the enemy team is all off the map, like you should probably be a little wary. Don't overextend. Stuff like that. I mean, split pushing is kind of an art of like pushing boundaries and trying to get as much as you can get without getting caught. And occasionally you're going to get caught realistically, but you're just trying to maximize the amount of havoc you can wreak upon the enemy team and the enemy base and deny them their farm, right? If you're split pushing and you're taking their small camp and large camp every minute because you're doing that rotation we were talking about earlier, now that team is not getting the 200 gold they would have gotten from those two camps combined. So it's all about those kind of little things. So I guess on that note, we are pretty much done with the segment. And
wait, I want to talk about Manta style. All right.
Oh yeah, good point. Good point.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm gonna extend this a little bit to talk about the way that this item Manta style works with split pushing. And there's a few examples. The most specific is with a hero like Anti-Mage, one of those Manta style split pushers. And Manta style is obviously an item that allows you to do damage, physical damage like hero damage, without actually risking your hero. And in the case of split pushing, that's very effective. Being able to deal damage to towers without putting yourself at risk. That's what split pushing is all about. So you want to use your Manta style basically as much as possible, but you also need to be careful that you don't actually need your Manta style after it's used. So if you're, let's say, farming with Anti-Mage, the very efficient thing to do might be, let's say, you kill a medium camp and then you Manta style and send your Mantas to the small camp and then you walk to the hard camp. But if you're about to start split pushing after you push that hard camp and then someone pops in on you and silences you, but you just use your Manta style to farm, you're going to be shit out of fucking luck. So in general, try to save your Manta style. Don't use it to farm if you're ever thinking of split pushing within the next, Manta style's cooldown. And in addition, if you are split pushing, be very, very vigilant of what's around you before you're like, okay, I'm pushing this is a little bit too dangerous at this point. I need to use, I want to get more out of this. I'm going to use my Manta style and then get the fuck out of here. Because if you use your Manta style and then they go on you, again, you're going to be totally fucked. So you want to try to push it as far as you can until you're in danger. And that's the key point, because you use the Mana style because you're in danger, but you need the Mana style to save you from danger. So you have to be like right before shit hits the fan, Manta style, get out. If you push it a little too far, you're fucked. And in general, in Dota, it's better to be on the side of not fucked than probably fucked. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think like this is one of the large elements why these split push heroes like Naga, Siren, and Terrorblade are so good, is that, or even Morphling, is they can commit, they can do a lot of damage without actually committing any important resources, right? Like that's the thing about Naga, is her illusions, if she loses them, it literally means nothing to her. Or even like Arc Warden, I suppose, would be an example, although he loses like gold if you're playing the Necrobook style. But Naga is committing nothing to split push, just like you're committing nothing if you're just sending Manta illusions down a lane, right? You're getting something for free. You're getting free damage on the tower, free creep kills, whatever. So those kind of knowing and realizing that is incredibly important, and judging when like, you want to keep your Manta for defensive uses versus when you want to keep it for like split push offensive uses. Okay.
One little tip for most split push heroes that deal with like illusions or summons and that sort of thing: jungle with your hero, like safe places in the jungle, and then like focus on last hitting with your illusions or your Lycan Wolves or something like that. That's something I picked up like a couple years ago. I actually was watching Banana Slam Jamma play a pub in NEL, and like this was before he was like, relatively pro, and like it was like Brax and a couple and like Demon or something were like telling him everything to do on Lycanthrope, and he was like jungling with his hero, and then he's keeping his camera on lane and like last hitting with his fucking wolves. It was very cool, but Yeah, last hit with your summons in lane, because they don't actually kill creeps that quickly, but they can last hit efficiently. So last hit in lane with your summons or illusions, and then jungle with your hero. Little food for thought.
All right. So that note, let's hop into the combo we're going to be running today. We are going to be running.
Yeah, what are we doing?
We're playing Dota 2 in general.
Wow, thank you fucking piece of shit. Can you just? I forgot. It's like important for me to know this. Believe it or not.
Is it though? All right. So we are going to be playing Keeper of the Light and
Why
Morphling.
are we playing that?
Because Keeper of the Light, I feel like, is a sleeper pick, basically.
He's
like
old. He's probably asleep all the fucking time.
Yeah, that is definitely true. I feel like we're doing a disservice to the lore of Coddle by not playing him with a female character in our combo, but we will make do with Morphling, who is genderless, or some might even say, wait for it, gender fluid.
That was actually not bad.
Yeah, all right. I'm pretty impressed with that. That was not pre-planned at all, too. Now I'm like,
no, that was
on that pun
was pretty
high.
clever.
All right. So Coddle Morphling is a combo that is maybe not as obvious as some of the other Coddle combos. Like Coddle PL is like one of the most classic Dota combos. Coddle, though, has a lot of potential as a hero. Honestly, he's a hero that I was kind of down on recently, but after seeing some really good Coddle players, I have a whole new respect for the hero. It's definitely a kind of really strong counter pick against Timbersaws and Morphlings. Actually, I pick it against Morphling all the time.
Oh, yeah,
whereas,
is it because mana leak and it's made out of water?
Yeah, well, it's because of mana leak,
so
but yes. I want you to just leak all over the ground.
That's
which
gross,
is,
dude.
Yeah. Do with that information what you will.
Okay.
Anyway, the Coddle is very good against Timbersaw, and Timbersaw is kind of the scourge of this patch. Also pretty good against Slark if you can get it on him after he dark packs. Slark is super mana reliant. Generally, like you want to have Coddle against these cores that require mana to do what they do, but don't have an excess of mana. So a hero like Slark, that's very like once he has
holy shit.
Sven is a good example, yeah, where they need to have mana to do their kit, but they suffer, but they don't have an excess of mana, right? They don't have like the enough mana to be like, okay, I lost 300, it's not a big deal. Like an int core generally would be like, all right, I'm losing mana, this is inconvenient, but I have regen, I have whatever. But if you're mana burning a Slark, it's like, all right, unless he dark packs it off, if he loses like 250 mana, like that's a big deal. That's like 4 pounces and a dark pact. And
there's some heroes that use mana in a different fashion, right? Like Slark spams spells, but all of his spells cost about between 40 and 70 mana. The most is like Shadow Dance Huge once a minute at 120.
Yeah.
So like if Slark has to move around a little bit, that'll cost a shit ton of mana. If you got a hero like comparatively, like him losing 200 mana, yeah, that's a huge deal. That's like five of his spells. Another hero losing 200 mana is like one spell. So yeah, totally.
Yeah, or like to just go percentage based, right? If a Slark has 1,000 mana at level 25, that's 20% of his mana, that 200. Whereas if it's an Invoker and he loses 200 mana, it's like, all right, who cares? That's like 5% of his pool.
Truth.
So those kind of things, it has an important effect. So I haven't been playing a ton of Coddle. I've played like a couple games, and I've played with and against some really good Coddle players. So that's kind of where my interest in this hero came out. He definitely has potential. He still has some core weaknesses in that he doesn't have a instant cast stun, so he's not great at reacting to ganks on your mid laner, your off laner, and he kind of requires a certain amount of coordination if you want to really successfully use your ult, which hopefully you and I will be successfully using his ult.
I wouldn't bank on it, but okay.
Neither would I, honestly. And the nerf to, so in TI5 we saw some Coddle jungle coming out from EG. Owie would play it. It was very impressive. Nowadays, though, Coddle has a lot more trouble with illumination builds because he cannot take jungle stacks nearly as efficiently, or sometimes even at all, because of the change to that added magic resist to jungle camps. Because that patch where like Shadow Fiend would just raise down all these creeps. So he is weaker in that sense where he can't flash farm. Shadow Demon also has the same problem where he was kind of like nerfed incidentally, even though the nerf was targeted at mid laners. So that's kind of an issue of his. Nowadays, what people do is they go mana drain and then they max chakra, and then they'll get like 1 point in illuminate. So I've also seen some like different builds with him. To be fair, I've seen some people go like 1-2-2 and have 2 points chakra, 2 points mana drain early. But mana drain's an ability that's pretty like just good at level 1, and it gets the job done. And like obviously it gets better, but level 1 mana drain's a great value point, or mana leak. So yeah, I'm looking forward to playing this hero. I like have a feeling that we could just get absolutely rolled, and I might just feed. But I also have a feeling that like this hero has a lot of potential, and is never going to be like banned, and could easily be like a strong pick in a lot of lineups.
Yeah, I passed my linear algebra class. I just got an email, so I'm pretty happy right now.
I'm happy for you, bud.
Dude, fuck that class. Anyway, yeah, no, Coddle's super fucking weird, dude. And his ulti, oh my god. Like one time we played with Flub and he was playing Coddle, and I was like, damn, I'm getting recalled all the fuck over the place. This is sick. Yeah, but also, yeah, like he's also a hero who's not Sand King. So I'm like, what the fuck is the point of you? Where is your epicenter and where is your AoE stun? But you know what? Boy's got a niche.
Yeah, definitely niche is the word, because he doesn't bring to the table what we see all of the other meta supports do in general. And he doesn't, I mean, he just doesn't do a lot of things, right? He doesn't stun, he doesn't team fight. But what he does do is he gives mana to people, he reduces cooldowns, and mana leak is like it's very easy to be mana leaked and not realize it or think it's insignificant, and then suddenly you have no mana and like you're trying to escape and you can't because you're being stunned every 6 seconds and you're miserable and you can't use abilities. Like that kind of stuff happens, and it really sneaks out on people. And it may also just because it may also be because this hero is so unpopular that people are not adapted to dealing with such a mechanic. I think we see that on a lot of heroes. And I talk about that all the time with like why I play Kunkka. It's like people have not internalized these things. Like they haven't internalized how much mana they're going to lose by walking 50 units. Yeah. So
it's kind of like Rupture, right? Yeah. Like when you're against Bloodseeker, you're like, wait a sec, if I walk across half the map, Rupture only does like 300 damage. It's just like a regular nuke. But then with Mana Leak, like at level 1, it's actually kind of similar, but then kind of not. I don't know. It is really hard to gauge, especially because whenever I'm against Coddle, I just make sure I pick a hero that builds Manta style and build that really early.
Yeah, it helps. And the nice thing is you can just like blast and illuminate, and you see which one has the least damage taken, and that's the one you Mana Leak. But that definitely is an issue. Being able to Manta off Mana Leak sucks.
That being said, at the same time, that costs 150. It costs 150 mana, right? So if you're trying to dispel Mana Leak by spending mana, like, yeah, you're doing okay.
Yeah, and then you're not being able to dispel other things, right? If they suddenly Orchid you, it's like, all right, well, I already used my anti things, so now I'm just dead.
Yeah, you can't dispel everything, so Mana Leak could spell.
Yeah. And before we get into Morphling, I guess I'll talk about items on Coddle. Obviously, his Aghanim Scepter is incredibly strong. He's a great mech carrier. Aether Lens is interesting on him. I wouldn't build it every game by any means.
I wouldn't ever build that, I don't think.
I built it.
Why would you build that?
I built it just kind of to test it out, honestly.
No.
Because I kept getting kited because he's a pretty fast hero, but he doesn't have any direct like movement. Like he doesn't naturally build blink or anything like that. He does. Force Staff is actually incredibly good on him, but because you can mana drain somebody, Force Staff them, and then burst them, and they lose like 1,000 mana, which is pretty cool. And they're gonna be stunned almost every time. But Aether Lens was interesting just because of the increased mana leak range and the increased range on Chakra for allies, because it's pretty easy to get behind if you have a mobile carry like a Morphling. That being said, I wouldn't build it like regularly at all. But it was just something fun to test.
Yeah. Generally, I would always get a Force Staff over an Aether on that guy. If you're worried that they're not in range for your spells, Force Staff yourself forward, you stupid piece of shit.
Yeah, well, it's just like Force Staff is kind of committal, whereas Aether Lens, it's just like, all right, I can always be on the
You're
outskirts.
An old man. He's ready to die. Have you looked at his fucking face? Like, let him embrace the sweet, cold touch of death.
I mean, he can do that after my game. He can do that in some pub's game. That's not me. Does not have my MMR at the balance.
That's kind of selfish, but whatever. I'm not dealing with the
I
Dr.
am a
Kevorkian
selfish
here, right?
I am a selfish young man. He could easily be Dr. Kevorkian, except Dr. Kevorkian's dead, so maybe he ascended into being Coddle. That being said, yeah, to continue, his item build is generally some combination of Tranquil Boots, Aghanim Scepter, Force Staff, and Mech. And that's about it. Windlace is very good on him because he's a naturally fast hero. So if you have Tranquil's Windlace, like you are burning rubber. It's pretty
Okay,
legit.
wait. Windlace is good on slow heroes and fast heroes. I mean, I
Yeah.
think we're just saying Windlace is good on every support. Like,
Yeah.
what support aren't you building Windlace on?
None.
I mean, ones that
Like,
don't have slots open, but yeah, like Windlace is fucking dope. I don't think you
even
need to
them, like,
qualify. You just have to say like
yeah.
he has a slot for Windlace, you buy it.
Yeah, Windlace is just so good. It is just so good. Honestly, like
Yeah.
everybody just I mean, we've talked about it on a number of different shows and in a number of different episodes of this show. Build Windlace. It is good.
Yeah, dude. Like every carry in the world was spending a whole fucking 4,000 gold in a slot on S and Y. They stripped down all of the important parts of S and Y and put it for 200 gold on a Windlace. Like it's awesome.
Yep. All right. So that's Coddle for you.
I don't know. Would you say that those are specifically his items? I feel like he just builds whatever item, and it just so happens that those are in general. But I mean, he can farm well, so he can get the mech. But like, I don't know, like Force Staff, Glimmer Cape, fucking Ethereal Blade. Like, I don't know, like every support item is fun. I mean, you're not gonna go like fucking Medallion, but yeah. I don't know. Force Staff, I guess Force Staff and Glimmer Cape are like the only real like general support items.
Yeah. I mean, it is kind of like a theme with almost all the supports we play on the show is like they generally have like one really key item on them, but in most situations, like, oh, if our team needs a Vlad's, like, all right, I guess I can build it. Or our team needs a pipe, Coddle can build it, whatever. So you definitely like it's not like you're playing Earthshaker and you need to have like, all right, I need mobility items. You can say like, all right, if we need a mech, I'll build a mech. If we need, so and so, I'll build so and so. But
I'm a big
in general.
Fan. You should get Heart on Coddle, I feel like.
I've actually built E-Blade on Coddle a number of times.
Well, yeah, it's like core, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, because I've long time been an advocate of Ghost Scepter, just because like Ghost Scepter is so much utility for and like decent stats for such a relatively cheap price, and being able to Ghost Scepter your teammates and like save them in certain situations is incredibly useful. So if you're going past like 60 minutes and you're like, if you just suddenly have a bunch of money from a slot, like it is totally worth it to go E-Blade on a support that's building Ghost Scepter, especially one that can farm, because it's like, all right, all my other slots are full. I don't really need TP boots right now because we're 5-manning. So I'm just gonna build a I'm just gonna build an E-Blade.
Yep.
Also, I'm biased because I think that item is really fun, and I like fun items like
yeah,
Battle Fury and Armlet.
You will have way more fun with an E-Blade than a Sheep Stick. So if you're like, maybe I'll get the Sheep Stick and it would be better, or I can get the E-Blade now and it would be fun.
Yeah, you can style on people.
I'm not gonna fault you if you have an E-Blade. I'll put it like that. I don't think it doesn't really get my seal of approval. Like Sheep Stick is fucking dope, but you know what? Treat yourself once in a while. Buy an E-Blade. I believe in you.
If you already have the Ghost Scepter, it's like you've already kind of committed a slot, so you may as well like spend an extra 3,300 gold. Am I right?
Oh, I don't know. I had this Ghost Scepter. How did it get here? Guess I have an E-Blade now. Like that can be your defense when your team flames you.
Yeah, that's how I build Battle Furies. It's generally like I build a Perseverance, and people are like, "Oh, okay, he's building a Lotus Orb," or "Oh, he's building a Lincoln's." Nope, I'm building a Battle Fury. All right, so let's go into Morphling then. You said you've been playing a lot of him recently.
Yeah, we played one team game and I played really poorly for various reasons. So I was like, let's like get practice on Morphling again, so some of these reactions are more automatic, even if I'm in like a really bad way. I'll still play it decently. So I've been playing some Morphling in international queue. I have had a support in one of my games, which was very nice. But a lot of like kind of solo Morphling dealing with bottom of the barrel, like fucking scrapping whatever I can get together. So it's given me a nice, a distilled look at like pure sparkling Morphling water. Just like I got a nice bottle of Morphling and I'm just like, what the fuck does this guy do? And so I've tried a few things out. I've tried some E-Blade first stuff, which I think I'm just like not into at all. I've tried treads and then not going treads and just going like fucking like brown boots Aki, Lincolns, and then like Manta, then E-Blade, or Manta or Lincolns and then E-Blade and then Manta, any kind of combination of those. But I've kind of figured out definitely like I only really am super interested in picking Morphling when there's someone that I want to make an illusion of on the enemy team.
Mm-hmm.
So like I'll pick him against Spectre and I'll make a Spectre illusion and I'll be very happy. I pick him a lot against Axe. That's kind of like my most common. Like they picked Axe, let's pick Morphling. And then if you're against Lion, that's very sad because he just mana drains your Axe illusion. That sucks. But in general, it's not. So you just gotta like find someone good to make an illusion of. I played a game against a Spectre, and every game they had this Lena that was shitting on us, so I would make a Spectre illusion, and then I would just right-click the Spectre on Lena, and she would just like have to very slowly walk away from every fight and try to like kite out the Spectre that was killing her. Like she'd Yules it and then try to kill someone else, and then it would come back down like chasing her. It's like the fucking monster in Amnesia: The Dark Descent, and she's just like, oh fuck, I gotta do this puzzle, kill this person. Shit, he's still on me. It was great. I killed her like 3 times. It was awesome.
Yeah, they last a long time.
Yeah, dude, it's like a minute, and it's tanky as shit. I love it. I think like a Radiance it's giving Radburn too, but no, it's awesome. Yeah, I had like a Luna illusion throwing glaives around, and no one could blink. Yeah, so find someone good to make an illusion of. I think that's one of the least thought of aspects to Morphling. It gets popular, like when PL is popular, everyone's like, oh shit, pick Morphling, then you get your own Phantom Lancer. Like that's true. But like that's still true now. You know, it's good against anti-mage for making anti-mage illusions. Anti-mage is often thought to be good against Morphling, but if you have your own anti-mage, it's pretty good too. So yeah, you make clones of people. That's pretty dope. He's also like pretty bursty. He's got good magic damage. So if you're dealing with a carry that doesn't take that much physical damage, like you're trying to kill Sven, Morphling's a pretty good option. You just pop that dude right through his right through the war cry, and then save your physical damage after like you E-blade him during war cry, and then when war cry's down, you right click the shit out of him. That's pretty solid. He's very evasive. You can't really kill him if you don't have silences because he can morph through stuns and stuff like Berserker's Call and shit like that. Hexes, you can't morph through hexes, so that's one thing. Like Shadow Shaman and Lion are both good against Morphling. But yeah, he's just like he's pretty decent in general. He can't fight as well as most other characters. You generally want to get like somewhere between like a 13 and 15 minute or like 13 and 17 minute Lincolns. I'm not exactly remembering it. I normally get it like 13 or so, but yeah, you need to get a real fast Lincolns because he's kind of like Weaver. Like you get the Lincolns and then you can't really do shit until your item after the Lincolns. Like Morphling can fight and you can waveform around and that's really good. But like you once you have Lincolns, you don't really do damage any more than you do at your base. You're just more survivable and you can use your skills. Yeah, I don't know, man. Morphling's pretty. He's fun, but he definitely has his weaknesses.
Yeah,
Lincoln level 1, man.
Yeah, boy. Lincoln is an interesting item on Morphling. I feel like, or an interesting item just in general, because I feel like a lot of people that are playing Lincoln's, quote unquote, like Lincoln's heroes, like Morphling or Medusa or Weaver, like sometimes I even find myself doing this. Like you try to find an excuse. You're like, Lincoln's isn't that good this game. Like there's either too many things to pop it or too few things to pop it. But nowadays, Lincoln has been buffed to the point where like the stats on Lincoln's are just actually really good.
Yeah. It's like 15 stats, 15 damage.
Yeah, I feel like every game and all that regen. Like every game I don't go Lincolns, I regret it. Like I played a Morphling game semi-recently, and I tried out Dragonlance, and I was like, all right, I'm going to get all the stats from Dragonlance. I don't need Lincolns this game because they had like very few targeted abilities, if any. And I ended up just thinking like, boy, I wish I built a Lincolns. Like it's just so many good stats.
The mana regen is so good for him. Like all of my farming basically consists of me getting a bunch of creeps down to like 300 health, and then I waveform through them to the next camp, and like that's how I farm, and it's fucking awesome. Like playing Morphling without Lincolns is very sad, to be honest. I know there are a lot of heroes like you don't even need Lincolns; it's such a waste and doing things fucking stupid. Like, damn, dude, if I can't waveform around, like that is a much less happy hero. Oh yeah, by the way, Windlace on this hero, he's got like 200 move speed. Get your Lincolns, get a Windlace immediately afterwards, or even like I do like Perseverance, like Brown Boots, Perseverance, Aquila, and then I get then I get a Windlace, and then I'm actually like relatively swift. Is great.
What about so if I'm remembering my game correctly, actually on Morphling, what I did since I wasn't going Lincolns is I built Aki, or Aquila, whatever, and then I just kept a raindrop on me because raindrop's a really good item, but the raindrop mana regen plus the Aquila mana regen feel like that kind of made up for my lack of Lincolns.
Yeah, I think if you wanted to go an E-Blade first build, that would definitely be the way to do it. Yeah, if you had like Raindrop, Brown Boot, Aquila, and then we're just like going straight E-Blade, I think that would be okay. I would be a little worried about your health regen, but I mean,
That's true.
if you have like a Dazzle or like anyone that's capable of healing at all on your team, or you're just farming lane and not like getting pressured into jungle like I am when I have no supports in my fucking lane because they want to aggro duel and we have a jungler.
Yeah.
That's totally fine. Like the last game we played with the team, I went E-Blade first, and I didn't even have a raindrop, and I just right-clicked creeps for basically like I don't know 10 minutes, and then I had like a fucking E-Blade at like 12 minutes or something like that.
Yeah. All right. Any more thoughts on Morphling?
Yeah, so to talk about skill build a little bit.
Skill build,
You always want to max the Q. That's the waveform. That's your main damage source. Does incredible damage. You can right click during it, which isn't super well known. So like while you're waveforming, be right clicking on someone just like real quick. Like, oh shit, I'm going by this guy. I'm gonna add one right click, and that's gonna add 50 damage or 70 damage or something.
You can also cast ability. I mean, you can cast abilities, also items, and also TP scrolls. So you can do the sneaky like TP scroll waveform thing.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, so I'll always max your Q. You get 1 point in W you get 1 point in your adaptive strike by level 4. Typically at level 1, you want to decide between you might need your waveform to get out of a gank, or you might need it to like finish a kill or something on someone. But for the most part, you can wait to skill, and then if you skill your like morph agi or whatever, you can skill that like once you're almost at lane. Because if you're not really going to spend mana on anything besides morphing your stats back and forth, you're generally going to be pretty close to full mana by the time you're level 2 anyways. So just find out whether or not you need to skill. Once you know, then do it. Don't worry about the fact that you're starting the lane with half mana. You're not going to spend it anyways. Let's see. Is there anything else? Oh yeah, when split pushing, obviously you want to use your ulti on either a teammate or an enemy or whatever. Just have an illusion in the back line, and then push it as far as you can. You have the Lincoln Sphere, so be aware of what can possibly stop you. If it's someone with like an Orchid or something like that, the second you're split pushing and your Lincoln's pops, that's like your fucking burglary alarm. The second Lincoln's pops, you press R and you get the fuck out of there. That's like one of the reasons why Lincoln's is so good on heroes like Weaver and Morphling, is because you're split pushing and you want to be able to push it as far as you can and then get out as soon as you hit your limit. But if you have a Lincoln's, you don't really need to know too much yourself. You just wait for the Lincoln's to tell you it's time to get the fuck out. And that's the strat.
All right. I play Morphling, but not nearly as much as you. So you're the authority. So I'm pretty happy with this. Any further thoughts before we hop into the game? I guess it's about the direct synergy between these two heroes. Coddle is going to accent your ability to just flash farm, I imagine, with Chakra Magic plus Waveform. Like we can just do a lot of pulls with our hard camp, and then you can take the hard camp. You can just do a lot of it allows you a lot more freedom because you're going to have all that extra mana on a hero where in the early game you're not going to have a ton of mana. The other thing is like you can do these kind of very split push heavy plays, and I can summon you back to base. There's not a ton of direct synergy though, to be fair. It's honestly just like these are two heroes that are interesting and decent, and they have enough synergy that they work together. Do you have any other thoughts on like how these two heroes work off of one another?
I feel like you accent my split pushing pretty well with recall, and the fact that you can de-push pretty well yourself. So if I'm off split pushing somewhere, you can buy me time and that sort of thing with your auto blasts. The fact that your mana leak allows us to like, I would say, like Coddle can secure a lane from Morphling's a pretty weak laner, right? And one of the issues is my attack range is pretty weird. Like I'm not a melee hero, but I'm very slow, and my range isn't quite long enough to make up for that. But if you mana leak someone, they can't necessarily run, or they have to get out from your Coddle Blast. Like, I feel like you kind of just cover my laning weaknesses in all the right ways. And then also, yeah, like your Chakra Magic lets me farm so efficiently. Like I was doing like a 5 stack on a hard camp, just like I had a Coddle on my team too, and he would chakra me, and I'd waveform, and then in like 4 seconds later, I was like, okay, I'm gonna waveform back through it again, and it was great. So yeah, like if you're just chakra magic me once or twice when I'm going through camps, I can just waveform with impunity and actually like have an AoE farming skill as opposed to just auto attacking creeps for like 85 damage.
Okay. Also, just to make a callback, I'm actually just looking at the Dota buff. Funnick is the highest ranked player of Coddle, and he builds Aether Lens in many games as like the first real item.
I don't care.
So it's interesting.
I don't care.
Yeah, but anyway,
Why
let's.
would I just don't.
I mean, I imagine it's just like the having the extra little bit of mana is nice, so that when you chakra magic other people, you're not suffering.
Yeah, so get a 4 staff.
Yeah, I mean you can do that, but like, yeah, yeah. He starts with a what's called windlace, and then he goes tranquil boots, drums, aether lens, aghanim's. It's interesting. Anyway, let's hop into the game. We'll see if I build an Aether Lens or not. I probably won't. And you can watch that game, of course, on youtube.com/.ptv1. That's a numerical 1. And it should be a good time. So we'll see you guys. All right, Owen, we are back in business. We just finished our game. It was most certainly a game of Dota 2. It was back and forth, I will say that much. There were phases where we looked like we were certainly going to win. There were phases like the end of the game where the throne fell, and that's when we lost.
Yeah, I was pretty sure we were going to lose after that.
Yeah, after that, I was like, boy, if this score screen doesn't come up and we get a new chance, that would be dope. But that did not happen.
No, I don't think it did.
To start us off, I will read off the teams. Our team was a 2-1-2 lineup. It was safe lane, Coddle, Morphling, of course. Mid lane, we had a Death Prophet, and off lane, we had a dual lane of Legion Commander Dazzle. The enemy team had a off lane dual lane, which was disgustingly annoying and incredibly good. It was Coddle Marana. Oh, excuse me. It was Kunkka Marana. And in the safe lane, they had Lion Slark, and in mid lane, they had an Invoker, because what would a game of Dota 2 be without an Invoker pick? So both teams 2-1-2'd, and the lane's kind of like, our lane was absolute misery, and we fed a bunch of kills in the early game because Kunkka Marana is a really good combo, and we didn't deal with it properly, nor were our heroes well suited to deal with it, specifically Coddle. Like, you could kind of live through it sometimes, but Coddle was just a mess. Anytime I got X'd, I was guaranteed dead.
Yeah, it was freaking brutal.
Yeah, it was not fun. Honestly, like, the entire game was won for the Dire team by the Marana. Like, she just played so well. She was hitting, like, every arrow. She had a decently timed Aghanim, or very well timed Aghanim, is actually at 14 minutes. And this was, I would say this, and I imagine you would agree, this is a testament to how good Marana can be if you play her not in like a high farming like mid lane or safe lane position, where all she did was like, she got mediocre farm, like good farm, but she just like roamed around, killed a bunch of heroes, and had Aghanims, and then Aghanims passively farms the entire map for you. So she just got way ahead, and our team lacked lockdown. Like, our team, the only actual stun we had was Legion Commander ult. Like, that was our only hard lockdown. And you know, that's the kind of stuff. I mean, it is what it is. Just going to happen. We had one push in the bottom lane that we got a tier 2, and we were fighting at tier 3s. We almost got a tier 3, and they had to buy back, and it was like it was a really long, successful push, but it just didn't pan out. And then after that, like, we just had a few pickoffs and a few fights that we shouldn't have taken, but we took in anyways. The Death Prophet wasted a couple of exorcisms, which is really key when you're, I mean, it's like wasting a Ravage or a Black Hole, right? Like, you spend that ability, and then the other team just fights, and you can't do anything because you have a useless hero because their ult isn't up.
Yeah.
So it was not like the worst game in the world, but it definitely was a game where the pace was controlled by the enemy team, and we had a window of winning, but it just didn't pan out. So what do you think, Proud? How'd you go?
Yeah, I mean, the starting was just super brutal. Like, X into Arrow was way too much for either of us to deal with. And we didn't really have a tri-lane, so it was just like their dual lane was stronger than our dual lane. And that was just kind of that. And Morphling, I feel like Morphling is like a very thin hero, which kind of makes sense to my kind of weird synesthesia shapes, but he's like thin. I don't know, man. He's thin. If you don't have like the good early laning stage, then he really doesn't. It's really hard to like get off, to like, you know, just take off with him. So like, I had very weak CS. Like, at 6 minutes, I had like, you know, like 15 or 17 or something, and I kind of recovered. But then they came back with like a tri lane and then ganked us again. And it was just like really hard to kind of get it going. And like a Morphling that's behind and can't really split push because they have both a Lion and a Kunkka like pouncing on you and shit, and like Slark scouting you out before, and it was just it was pretty brutal. Yeah, it was rough. Like Morphling really does need a nice strong tri-lane to get him a decent start. And we didn't have that. We thought we were going to be 2v1, but instead it was 2v2, and then like Morphling can't really flash farm that well. And then we just took fights like, I don't know, I got a triple kill at one point and that kind of made it okay, but I feel like I got the Manta style just to like farm myself back. So I went like Lincoln's Treads Manta and so I mean normally you just go like Lincoln's and either Treads or keep him as brown boots for travels, but I wanted the power Treads just to be able to fight. And then I got the Manta style after the Lincoln's, which may not have been the play. I wanted the Manta style just to farm. I didn't particularly have anything to dispel or whatever, but I just wanted that to farm. And then I probably should have just gotten the E-Blade to like help burst people down, but it's kind of weird when you have like the physical damage from Legion Commander and Dazzle and Death Prophet, and then you go E-Blade, but I still think that probably would have been the thing to do.
Yeah, it definitely, like, our draft suffered from the lack of lockdown we had, right? If you compare the teams, just like they had a Lion support and a Kunkka support and a Mirana and an Invoker, and even Slark like pounces a pseudo disable in some respects. So they had a ton of disable, whereas our team, like I said earlier, we had Legion Commander ult, and we had Mana Leak Stun, Death Prophet Silence, a bunch of minus armor, okay, whatever, and like your 0.25 second stun. So when Mirana was leaping around and stuff, like what were we to do? When we were just like at the whim of their incredibly like mobile team. So
yeah, we had basically zero lockdown outside of the Legion Commander, and then she would like jump on someone, and Slark would press R and be like, "Shit, I can't fucking duel something I can't see." Turns out you can't duel clouds. I've used to try to duel clouds. Like I would jump really high and try to duel cloud. Doesn't work at all. Wastes so much fucking time.
Oh my god, I can only imagine. That's rough.
Yeah, dude, this like my entire like 19 through 21 those years, I just wasted so much time trying to duel one cloud.
That's disappointing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that's kind of honestly.
I lost like 3 cutlasses. Anyway, go on.
If I was to reflect on the game, really, it would be that. Like, our draft lacked hard lockdown. Our team was pretty, like, tempo-based around, like, we had to push around Exorcism. So whenever we didn't, we just, like, lost out, right? If you compare our team to their team, Exorcism is a huge, long cooldown for us, and it's, like, a high-value thing, whereas the Dire team, they literally have no heroes that have long cooldown abilities that are, like, fight-changing. Like, Finger, yes, but even Finger, like, is more of a pick-off ability.
Yeah, kind of Boat, but yeah, I mean, those are both very low cooldown skills comparatively. If Boat's like 40 seconds, that's nothing.
Yeah, it's nothing. And like Mirana ult, even that is like, that's not gonna. It's not like it's not an Exorcism level ability. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
so
it's not like you can't push without Moonlight Shadow.
Yeah, exactly. So I would largely say it was a comp-based difficulty with our game. What would you say about the like Coddle Morphling thing? Do you have any like? Do you think this is something we could draft again? Do you think like this was just inherently a problem with Coddle Morphling, or?
I was able to like recover farm a lot better because of you, which was definitely good. We wanted to use your recall a couple times, but you just kind of got pounced on by the Slark before we were able to do that. So that was
that was not fun.
I would say, like the fact that I could recover well was good. As far as it as a lane goes, I think it's really suited to either being in outnumbering people, like either being as a tri lane or as a dual lane versus solo offlaner. I think if it was like that, it would have been fine. Like even when we weren't getting comboed, like we're actually able to zone them pretty well, and we're like actually fighting. But like against any more serious, like if you ever face an aggro dual lane, it's not like going to be 2 incidental heroes. It's going to be something vicious, like a Mirana Kunkka, or I don't know, some kind of obnoxious ass combo, like a Slaughter Shadow Demon, something like that. So saying like, oh, like Morphling Keeper of the Light could be like, I don't know, fucking like Slark, Jakiro, like, yeah, but no one is like on purpose running Slark Jakiro. Like, we're really good at killing one person or really good at killing two people as three people. So I would run this as a tri lane, but I wouldn't run it like duel versus duel. I don't think it's not like it's not like PL where you like chakra me and I spam spells. It's like you mana leak someone and they can't run, and then I fucking hit them a shit ton, and then we have a secured Morphling. Like, the point is to secure Morphling's farm, not to make it a kill lane.
Yeah, I agree with you. I definitely think this is not a dual lane combo. In retrospect, like, again, if you're going against a weak laner, like, or even like a laner that is countered by Coddle, so like if they had like a Faceless Void or a Timbersaw off lane, I feel like we would have just dominated. But even if they ran like a solo off lane Darkseer, like, we would have had so much trouble. So definitely, I think in a tri lane, like, if you had a secure stunning support or a roaming support that would have drew the attention of the off lane duo lane to mid lane or their safe lane, that would have been nice. Like, if we had an Earth Spirit or like a Kunkka of our own or some other roaming support that is going to draw a lot of attention, that could work. Another thing I didn't talk about in the earlier part that I was kind of kicking myself over is when you're playing Coddle nowadays, generally you do not get ult at 6. You get ult at like most of the time I see either 9 and 11 or 10 and 11. You generally wait until there because having a lot of points in mana leak and chakra magic is just so important. I think in this game I'd have to look at it, but I think I might have just autopiloted and actually skilled ult at 6 by accident. I did.
Knew that. I knew there was some reason we lost.
Yeah, it was not good because you just like you don't have the points in Illuminate at low levels, so it's not nearly as valuable. At level 6, you're not really TPing people to your lane or like trying to do any like elaborate plans like that. Like, most people just have TPs because you're gonna have tier 1s up. So that was definitely an accident on my part, and that's definitely something to think of if you're playing Coddle. Is wait on the ult until like 10, 11, or at least 9. So that's that. I think it has potential for sure, and I definitely saw the strengths of Coddle. Like, I was just mana leaking anybody on their team, honestly, and they were suffering so much. Like, mana leaking this Slark, every time he dark packed it, I would just wait until and then mana leak him right after, and he would not be able to participate in a fight.
It's incredible. Even if we were just solo or just the two of us against a solo Morana. Like, if we wanted to kill her and she wanted to leap away, that would not jive very well with being mana leaked.
Yeah, exactly. And the same thing with Slark. Like, there were a couple of times where he would just pounce away after.
We'd like go to kill him and then mana leak him, and he'd pounce and be like, "Well, I spent 75 mana to waste all of my mana."
Yeah. So, it was interesting. It was definitely a learning experience. I'll put it that way. That's kind of how I view this, because Coddle is a very like nuanced hero where it's very easy to feed as Coddle, like I did multiple times this game, where like I just wouldn't pay attention. Slark would pounce on me and I'd have no recourse at all. Like, I could blind him, but his health, my health pool is just so low that I would probably be dead already between like a couple hits with the Echo Saber and pounce damage and Shadow Blade damage and Dark Pack damage. Like, I had 700 health for like a long period of the game, and it's like, that's just not viable. Same thing with Mirana. Like, she would just Starstorm with Ags and I was dead every single time. So it was rough, but a learning experience nonetheless, and it was only 23 points, so whatever.
Yeah, I'm still kind of unsure how I feel about Morphling, because we used to do really well with him. Like, I used to be like, oh yeah, Proud's got a very strong Morphling. I really respect Proud as a Morphling player, but now I'm like, I don't know. Every time I play him, he seems like way weaker than any other option. Like, I'll always do better on like a Juggernaut or a Sven or Chaos Knight or Slark or whatever. Like, he just doesn't do a lot early game, and his damage is very lackluster in general. Until you have like incredible farm on him, but like, what carry is that not true on? So I'm not entirely sure how I feel about this hero, but I think if you do play him, the build is definitely either Brown Brutes or Treads. For the most part, I think Treads is the way to go. Treads Aki. I get any part of Perseverance that I need in lane once I run out of regen or run out of mana. Start Tango Salve, Mango, and then I buy the Ring of Protection, and then I upgrade to Bassi immediately. That way I just have enough damage to like last it and that sort of thing. But yeah, so you just get like your Lincolns and then a Windlace at some point. and then get E-Blade and just have like Lincoln's E-Blade as fast as possible, and just try to blow people up. If you're doing well, it can make sense. Like I almost always put 1 point in my adaptive strike and then max out my like morph stats. But if you do that, it's a long time before you do have max adaptive strike. So kind of playing around like when you're going to get your E-Blade, maybe only put 3 points in morph stats if you think you're going to get your E-Blade, when you only have when you would be missing a point in adaptive strike. So just, if it looks like you're not leveling that fast, maybe skip a point in morph stats and put one additional adaptive strike and then finish off the morph stats like after you've got adaptive figured out, because having like a max adaptive with your E-Blade is a big deal. So make sure you get that shit. And its mana cost goes down too, and you can just spam it, 10-second cooldown. Good shit.
Absolutely. Okay, so I mean that's about it for me. Do you have any more closing thoughts on this game before I hop into the plugs?
Yeah, if you're playing Death Prophet and our entire game is based around your ulti, and they back up from like if they're sieging your racks and they back up, don't walk to low ground, then cast Exorcism, and then force us to walk uphill. That normally doesn't work.
Yeah, that was very bad. Anyway, you can watch this game on our YouTube channel at .ptv1. Special plug: there's gonna be a Friday episode. I know recently we've been putting out Friday episodes more frequently compared to we used to do them very sparingly.
Yeah,
so look out for that one.
Variation on your words there that you changed up. That was good.
Yeah, I'm working on it. And so it's gonna be a good time. It's a more educationally minded show or episode with myself and Roland. We're looking to do more stuff like that, so keep on the lookout for that, especially post TI, because TI is gonna be busy, so we might not be able to put out nearly as much educational stuff, though we'll have tons and tons of TI content, I'm sure. That being said, yep, you can watch the game on YouTube, twitch.tv/.ptv. That is where you can find myself stream and Roland stream, and we also normally stream the in-houses. In-houses is finished as we are speaking right now. They will be continuing probably a couple weeks after TI is over, and we will be doing a giveaway for all of the participants in the in-houses next week, I believe in the same Wednesday night time slot. I could be wrong. Check out our .p_show Twitter for the info on that. You can also find me on Twitter at Ursinity and Proud at ProudDota and Flub at FlubDota. Yep. 2 B's. Website, defenseofthepatients.com. On there, we have an Amazon banner. If you want to help us out, you can just, go to Amazon through that, and it gives us a free cut of the money. We appreciate it. It costs you literally nothing and just hands us free money, which is the best kind of money. Another way to support us is patreon.com/defenseofthepatients. You can email us at defenseofthepatients@gmail.com. We've been getting a lot of good emails today not today, but in general recently, about suggestions for stuff. That's like how we had that episode the other week about So You're New to Dota, stuff like that. So if you want to have a voice, you want to tell us what you like, what you don't like, or your deepest, darkest secrets, whatever you feel like telling us, that is defenseofthepatients@gmail.com. Reddit.com/r/defenseofthepatients is another way that we like to interact with the community. You can find usually all the new releases there and a good forum to discuss. Also our Discord, that's a good time. You can find that at defenseofthepatients.com/IHL. It's under ladder if you go to the website. And Discord's a good way to interact with the community. I know I am pretty much always on Discord unless I am asleep. So that is
even then sometimes, right? Because I've messaged you while you were asleep and you responded.
That also happens. So be aware that Discord's great. It's a lot of fun. And last but not least, iTunes reviews. If you give us those help us grow for sure. It may seem insignificant to you, kind reviewer, but it actually does change our it's nice. People notice. That's how you get to like the top of iTunes and whatever. So those things help. Also, we want your feedback. Again,
and my offer still stands. If you write a review and it is flaming either me or Ursinity specifically, while accompanied by 5 stars, obviously don't fucking shit all over my goddamn podcast. Yeah. You flame us with 5 stars and I'll fucking read that shit and it'll go straight into your perfect soft silky ears and I'll just be cooing all night about you, my honey bunny.
Yep. So on that note, we are going to be done. Remember, guys, this has been our theory, and if you lost, it's probably your Death Prophet's fault.